Hi, Mariana. It's nice to meet you.
It's so nice to meet you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for having me. You write my favorite genre of books, which is very specific. And I've told people this before, and they're like, "But that's not a genre." I'm like, "It is." And I've even like entered a contest when they're like, "What's your favorite genre of book?" I'm like, "It's a girl's like senior year. If she has to solve a murder that happened previously." And
Yeah,
they're like, "How is that a genre?" I'm like, "It is, but sometimes it'll take me like a few years to find the next book, but it happens."
it feels like a micro trope almost. Like this is what I'm chasing. Like some people are chasing like the hand flex from Pride and Prejudice, and some of us are chasing murder. It's,
But what
you
has
know.
it, yes, I am. I am. What has it been like going back to work as an English teacher after writing your debut novel?
It's been so well, so usually there are a few layers. Usually summer is when I write. Like I always try to save that time for writing time and, getting to, go to a coffee shop rather than getting up because I'm always up at 5 a.m. for my teaching job and having a little bit more of a slower pace. But this year with my book coming out, there was no slow pace. It was the school year was over and then it was promo, promo, promo book came out, tour, and then I've been on double deadline. So I have technically two books coming out in the fall. So there's been no like, just relaxing summer, which is great because I'm getting to fill it with writing. But so normally I feel like I come back to school being like, like I'm here and I get to kind of have the fun, back to school. And I have that, but it really feels like I didn't leave. It feels like I just kind of pressed pause on one video and then played another. And now I'm just pressing pause again, if that makes any unpause again, if that makes any sense. So it's time-wise, it feels strange. But then I have former students that have been messaging me saying, I finished your book and that's been really, really sweet. And one of them was like, I couldn't put it down. And I felt like my whole time that I got to be the student's teacher, I was trying to find the book that they would love and like not be able to put down. So I was like, oh, it was just mine. So,
That,
which is so sweet.
that is sweet. What grades do you teach?
I teach technically 9 through 12 because I teach a leadership class, but mostly 12th grade and some 11th grade.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Why did you decide your first book that has your name on it? We'll get into the ghostwriting. Would be this thriller genre.
You know, I love that in any story, the goal of the author is to complicate the character's life as much as possible, right? When I'm teaching creative writing, I'm always saying, come up with something that would be the worst thing that could happen to your character, and now scrap that and multiply that by 1,000 and find something even worse. And I feel like in thrillers, mysteries, horror, I mean, the stakes are always so high and they're just really messy and kind of, I don't know, exhilarating to jump into. And I also love combining the messiness of a murder mystery with a teen protagonist and then with a just truly bizarre setting. I just find that it's a really fun place to play in.
Yeah, like when I was reading, I'm like, oh no, we're still at the amusement park. Because usually,
Yes.
like, I've never had that setting before. It's usually we're in this high school. Oftentimes, we're at a prep school, which is fine. I enjoy that.
Yeah. No
But
shade to prep schools.
yeah, but it's weird. Like, they go to work every day and it's at this amusement park. But for you, what was it like working at an amusement park? I love amusement parks, by the way, but what was it like
Yes.
working at one?
I love them too. I mean to be honest, I think it's to date one of the best jobs that I've had, especially when I was a princess, because that job was literally, I would have my shift of maybe, I want to say it was like 30 minutes at most that I would be out on the throne, greeting people, taking pictures, having people tell you how pretty you are all day also, and just literally sitting on a throne. And then after that exhausting experience, I would walk to the green room and, just be in the green room for 2 to 3 hours reading a book before I walked back out to be on the throne again. So that was a great experience. But I will say, and I wanted Greta, the protagonist in Difficult Girls, to kind of find this too, but there was that level of glitz and glam and wonder, but then underneath, I would go out there and we were not a fancy, perhaps mouse-themed theme park, so I did not have an attendant. So I didn't have anyone where if something went wrong, I could be like, "Hey, help me out," covertly. So instead, if I had someone that was usually it was men being kind of gross. Like I would have their son or their nephew that I was taking pictures with, and then they would say something like, "Oh, is there room on your lap for me?" And the worst. I heard that so many times, and I couldn't say anything. I couldn't, and I was 17, 16. I just had to kind of sit there and smile and pretend I didn't hear them. And they knew, and that was, I think, the part where the wheels started turning for difficult girls because that power dynamic of someone knowing that they are causing you pain and enjoying it, I really wanted to take that and have Greta have all of the good stuff about the theme park, the found family, the silly setting, the guests, even down to the smell of sunscreen everywhere. I wanted her to have that, but I also wanted her to have, along with the other characters, this kind of reckoning with men in power and what they can do.
Yes. Speaking of difficult, that comes up a few times in the dedication. I have the book right here. Um, I actually got like emotional, but in a good way, like touched in a good way. The dedication is, I'm like, oh, so it says for people who I'm sure I have are buying the book or already read it and they're watching it. It says, to mom, thank you for teaching me the power of being a difficult girl for dream. And to every girl who has ever been told that they're too much, too loud, too sensitive, too difficult, you're everything you need to be. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Why was it important to have this dedication in the book? I feel like it's important.
Oh, yes. I mean, so my mom passed away in 2016, and this was actually the first book that I wrote completely after she had passed away. So my publishing story was a little bit of an expedition, we'll say, in that I got my first agent in 2015. 2015, 2014, and I thought like this is it. This is the moment. The struggle's over. I had had like a year of struggle. But I thought this is it. Everything's changing. I even posted like a Facebook status update, like so excited, like the next chapter. And then my agent took that book out on submission. We kind of, while we were on submission to editors, I wrote the next book because that's what you're supposed to do. And I fell in love with the next book so much so that I was like, I don't even care if that first book sells. And that second book, I like to think of it as, I call it Sunflower in my head, but it was all my favorite things. It was another messy female protagonist, very voicey, kind of inspired by a lot of my favorite things. I finished that and I told her, I was like, I finished this. I'm so excited. And she said, okay, we'll talk about it. And I then went on my honeymoon with my husband, and obviously, and while we were out on our honeymoon, my mom died suddenly. And I know, Mom, your timing was awful, but it was also the day after my birthday. It was, I know, I know. But so and by the way, for anyone who's like, how is she laughing about this? That's how I deal with grief. There's dark humor in all of my books too, so this will not be a surprise. But I I was like, okay, I don't know how I can keep writing, but I know my mom would just, send a lightning bolt down if I tried to give up because she would be like, I didn't pay for a creative writing degree for you to give up. Like, pick ourselves back up, let's go. And I had that book. So I was like, okay, well, oh, because then the next thing that happened was my agent told me I'm leaving the business. So those two things happened in quick succession. And I was like, how am I going to keep going? This is awful, but I know my mom would want me to. So I took that book that was already done, went out, I found a new agent. She also loved this new book. We went out with that book. And again, I thought like this is it. I had an editor even tweet like when you find the book you've been looking for and then message us. So I knew it was mine. And we got all the way to acquisitions and they said this kind of book doesn't sell. So now I was really just kind of at the end of my rope, but I knew I had to keep going. And so I wrote this very strange, weird, gnarled book. And I kind of poured all of my grief, my rage, all of it into this book. And I finished it, and it was this very strange thing. And I went to my agent, and she was like, "Yeah." And we both agreed this is not the book. Like it was such a strange book. So then I wrote more and more and more, and then I took a detour to ghostwrite. But after all of that, I felt like I had the skills to go back and take that weird grief book and turn it into something. And as I was kind of digging through it, I was digging through all the characters and their difficulties and their grief and their just kind of everything. And that was the first book I'd written completely since my mom died. And it had proven that I could write. And then going back through it again, it kind of proved that I could do hard things. And we finished revising it, and I went back to it, and it ended up selling to my dream editor. And that book is Difficult Girls. So for me, it's a long, long journey, but for me, that dedication is for all of those stages of myself. The teen girl who felt like she was too much, and that I was honestly too much for some people, and I still am too much for some people, and that's okay. But it was for her, it was for the girl in her 20s who kept going when things were incredibly hard, and obviously it was for my mom who, had I not kind of kept going back to, she would want me to do this, she would want me to do this, I would not have finished the book and I would not have published a book. So,
But amazing. I also love how you sign the book Stay Difficult Girls. Touching. Like the dedication. I like sometimes I have like book like lulls in finishing books and stuff like, and I don't have an issue at this point. I don't have an issue that like I'm not going to finish it. Obviously, I'm finishing yours
yeah.
and all of that, but I was like, oh, like this book is for me. Like I get it. Like this book is for me, and
Yeah.
even
Oh, I was just gonna say,
yeah.
oh,
Go
sorry.
ahead. Go ahead.
My internet was like, but I was just gonna say, I think what's the thing about the book and the thing about the dedication is because it's for those people who can empathize with it, it's in some ways not for the people who can't. Like there will be people who will read Greta and they'll be like, I don't know why she's acting this way. I don't know why she's so emotional. I don't know why she makes these terrible decisions. And I wanted to be okay with that, to be like, she's for the people who will get her, and that's okay. So,
Yeah. Speaking of Greta, and it's in, I don't think you have memorized your book, but on 124, where they talk about, where it just reminded me of when they're talking about Mercy, but they're also talking about Greta, how she feels that she just does too much. That like she's
yeah,
talking about in group projects how people will tag her because she cares about
yeah,
everything so much.
yeah.
And it's not a bad thing, but why does Greta care? She's met this girl for a second. The
Mhm,
girl is
mhm.
actually really mysterious. Like, oh, I have to tell you something. And it's like, oh, okay, where are you? Um, but why in general does she like everything she does, every decision she makes is like the most thought out process? Like I have to get from this part from here. Like I have my timer. Like she takes everything very seriously. Why is that?
I think that a lot of a lot of it is Greta has a real drive to be loved, and she is constantly fighting with trying to make herself into a person that people will love, which requires her to kind of bury certain attributes, but they will not stay buried. They just keep popping up. And so I think it's and I was definitely that teen, and I see that in so many teens where you're trying to figure out who you are and you alternate between trying to make yourself palatable, but being true to who you are because that truth, you just can't hide it for that long. And Greta definitely has a little bit of that, but I also think one thing I didn't know when I wrote the book in 2017, and I was giving a lot of me to Greta. She's not a one-to-one, but she has a lot of me in her. I did not know that I had ADHD. I was diagnosed with ADHD many, many years later, and Greta is not on the page diagnosed. However, since the book has come out, I have had so many people either reach out or put in a review or something about how Greta is clearly neurodivergent. And I'm like, oh, yeah, she is, because the things that she does, I now recognize as traits of my own neurodivergence, the hyperfixation, the sensitivity, just the way that when she finds something, like you said, that's what she's doing, and she kind of can't let it go. And I think with Mercy, it's also a combination of this person who trusts her, especially after she's been betrayed by a friend, like this slight inkling of someone who might accept her is just so tempting for her, and I think so overwhelming at what it could be that she can't not latch onto it. And I think that's also so many times neurodivergent people are looking for someone who gets them and who's not going to judge them. And so while Greta isn't on the page, I think she definitely has those qualities, and she would probably get diagnosed after college and be like, "Oh, everything makes so much sense." I think there is also a reality that there are many girls who are like Greta and many young people in general who are like Greta who are not neurodivergent, and they love a lot, and I mean, she's incredibly ambitious, and she's putting her ambitions in all kind of the wrong places according to other people. Like she's putting them into crushes and her job at a theme park that someone else would be like, "Girl, it's a job at a theme park." But for her, that's important. And I think for a lot of teens, I think sometimes people downplay this, but what they're dealing with is the most important thing to them. And I don't say that lightly, and I'm not saying like, oh, they think that it's important and it's actually not. To them, it is the most important thing. Like their world revolves around their day to day. For Greta, having to go to a school where she feels hated and then go to this theme park where she realizes she might actually fit in, of course that's valuable and important to her. Why would she not care?
Yeah.
But I will say she does care to a level that I understand why the neurodivergent babies reading this book are like, ah, I see you, Greta.
Yes. Yes. For the other characters, how were you inspired by them? You were saying Greta is a bit similar to you. How, like Ivy and Liam and all of those other characters, who were they inspired by, or are these just creations in your head?
I mean, you named two of my favorite characters. I love Ivy and I love Liam, and it was so much fun to create them. I would say all of the characters in the book are inspired by certain people. They'll take little attributes, but not no one is a one-to-one. And Greta's probably the closest, but like she obviously has markedly different experiences than I do. There are actually people, now that I say that, that might actually be closer because many of the people in the book are based on coworkers of mine. And for example, Gene is, if you have not read the book, Gene is an old man, very, very old man, and he is very strict about training at this 40 theater that they're at. He has battles with the crows every day because they are ruining his precious theater. He has to clean up after them. He is absolutely based on someone that I worked with who was named Tom. And that was Tom every day. Tom did not have a traumatic event like Gene had that I don't want to spoil in the book, but otherwise their personalities, their appearances, they are exact. Ivy does take a lot of personality traits from friends of mine. I also feel like she's that girl that you want to be your big sister, and especially when you're someone who is not cool and you're just like, please adopt me. And and that made her very fun to write, but she will say the thing in a way that Greta could never. She's so true to who she is, but she also has her own messiness. And then Liam, I just really wanted to write someone that, again, how do I not spoil? But I think this is pretty obvious. Greta thinks that Liam is a dangerous character from the beginning, but I think anyone else clocks immediately that like this is a cinnamon roll golden retriever. This is not someone that she should be afraid of, but she's like, no, I cannot read a green flag to save her life. And I thought that was just really funny and compelling, and his sweetness is endearing. But um, I mean, there are certain parts of him, like he is part Filipino. I had many Filipino friends in high school. He participates in a debut. I participated in a debut. So like there are parts of him that are kind of drawn from bits of my life, but overall they're kind of all I stole from real people to make characters.
Yes. Speaking of race a bit, what I noticed in your book compared to a lot of other YA books, I've read YA books for years, is that usually nowadays it's like they'll have a black character and they'll describe the person as, oh, there's a black character, they have braids, and they're only there for a scene and then they go away. This in your book, there are characters in many different races. You actually say what their race is. You call out a character for, well, a person in the book calls out a character who is saying that you can't call a person who is Colombian Mexican just because they have brown skin.
Mhm.
What was it like to bring race into the story?
Yeah, I love this question. I feel it was really important to me because when I worked at a theme park in San Diego, I was not working with just white people. That is not what San Diego looks like. That is certainly not what the theme park looked like. And so it would not have felt accurate to just have it be Greta with all of her white colleagues. And so I wanted to do that accurately. And for each person that was in the book, I wanted them to be represented thoughtfully of all of the races represented in the book. And I have many friends who are of different races and are of the races in the book. And so I also knew that these people would be reading this and I couldn't have characters in there that were poor representations. I wanted the language to be represented accurately. I wanted the food to be represented accurately. Just kind of all of it mattered in the same way that I would put the attention into the rides, the setting, the character, not the characters, but the every building the city out, the fake city of Rancho Paloma. I think sometimes it doesn't make sense to me that sometimes authors will only put the work into that kind of world building, but then they don't do it with characters of color. To me, all of it is part of the fabric of your story and should be given the same detail and attention. And so that was important. And I'm a teacher who teaches predominantly students of color. And the idea that I would put a book in a classroom library or a library with poor representation for them to find would never sit right with me.
Yeah, I agree. I appreciate that. And I was just like, oh, this is different. Especially there's a part of the book where they're talking about tacos. And then, but I was also like, I really do like crunchy shell tacos. I do understand those aren't real tacos. And I just accepted that about my Midwest self. And that's
Yes,
okay.
I mean, yeah, and some of the lines you mentioned, like the character being like, you can't, you know, call someone who's Colombian Mexican, you can't make those assumptions. I mean, those are conversations I will watch young people have all the time, and that I feel like almost sometimes adults are more afraid to have those conversations. Like teens just will say the thing, and so I wanted that to be in the story. And similarly with the taco, I've heard that conversation with my students constantly. And so I feel like, and I've heard it with my friends too. So I was like, well, that's a real moment. And that also felt like a way for them to naturally talk about where they're from and what their families are like and assumptions and just kind of deal with it in a in an organic way. Because kind of to what you were mentioning earlier, I didn't want the book ever to feel didactic. Like this is what Greta is, or this is what these people are, and this is what you should learn from their conversation. I wanted it to just be, this is how people talk. What do you
Yes,
think?
yes. Also, another thing that I thought was funny, and I feel like must be like ripped from your life, was when they decide to have the 2000s party and Sylvia comes in. It's just like, this is more like 90s, but okay, whatever. Like I just felt like that was just very accurate.
See, you know, you've been when you write YA as an adult and you want to say something that the teen protagonist would not say. That's clearly me to my kids on my students on theme days when it'll be 2000s and I'm like, "What are you wearing? Those are butterfly clips. This is not." So Sylvia got to be the one to say that to the world for me and I'm grateful.
Like when people are like, oh, this is Y2K, it's like, no, that was actually a really stressful crisis that people were worried about. Like that
Yes.
those are two different things. That doesn't
No,
mean
no, I mean, nothing will age you like teenagers being like, oh, vintage. And it's like the thing that you wore every day. They'll
that's
humble
my
you.
laundry day clothes.
So I'm like, this is why I had to put it in the book, but I had to have an older character say it, and it's fine.
So if this book ever became live action, as in it was adapted, um,
I would love.
well, first off, would you rather it be a movie or a TV show?
Ooh, I feel like I think it could be great either way. So like Netflix,
We're open to
don't
anything.
don't be offended. You
Yeah.
can do either. I'm happy. But I think it would be a really good limited series. I feel like you could kind of live in the theme park a little bit longer. And I feel like there are lots of moments in the book that kind of lend themselves to that. I'm doing episodic, if you couldn't tell with my hand. They lend themselves to an episodic structure. But I also think it would be a great movie, and I think it would be so cool to see on screen.
Yes. And who would you cast in many of like the main roles?
See, when people ask me this, I'm like, oh no. Like it's like my brain goes blank. I'm like, I've never seen a movie. I love movies. Clearly, there are movie posters all over my home. I honestly think, and I feel like sometimes this is a bit of a a cop-out answer for authors, but I think it would have to be a lot of new cast, to be honest. And I think that Greta may be someone that's like, what's the actress in Lisa Frankenstein? Catherine Newton? Like
Yeah.
s- someone that vibe, but younger. Sorry, Catherine, you've aged out of 16-year-old for me, but the casting director may disagree. But I feel like I would love someone brand new so that the audience isn't projecting any past roles onto them. And then, like you mentioned, a lot of the cast is incredibly diverse, and there are absolutely working actors that could do it, but like Liam is Mexican, Filipino, and white. And I have tried for all my Pinterest boards to find someone that fits the exact kind of combination of that in my head, and I have yet to find someone, but I hope they're out there, and I would love for that. And Ivy, I'm sure there are plenty of actresses who could play Ivy very, very well, but I would want that to be someone who is Colombian. Um, Mercy, I feel like I feel like with Mercy, I don't know if there's a specific person, but I would want someone who this sounds so basic, but someone who looks like a star. Someone who you look at them and it's like you can't imagine a time when you didn't know what that person looked like and who they were. And so again, I feel like you almost need someone new for that because otherwise you'll see the star that already exists rather than Mercy as the star.
I hate to say it, but I agree with you. Because like when I was like writing out that question, I'm like, who would I cast? I'm like, it would have to, this is everyone's breakout role. This would be
Yeah.
their, and I was like, oh, I hate when people answer like that. But
I
I'm like,
know.
no,
I
I
know.
would answer.
I know, and I'm sorry, but that's why I tried to at least give you a little bit more about the description. But I do think that would be fun. Yeah, and even like even my beloved Keenan, as goofy as he is, like I almost maybe that would be the one role where you could pick one of the I don't know this will sound mean. I don't mean it this way, but like the white boy of the month, like one of those. That's who you can pick for Keenan. Done. Job's easy. Go for it.
Yeah. But yeah, it would just have to be just to me because I would just be super into it.
Yeah.
But for you, you're writing a lot, it seems. Um,
I'm so tired.
yeah. Well, how do you balance that out with like your day job? It's very Superman-like, but how do you balance it out?
It's, you know, I always say that I try to be very intentional about splitting up both of my work as a teacher and my work as an author because I can't do anything 50%. I'm 100% on both. And so when I am being a teacher, I want to 100% be a teacher. And then when I'm a writer, I'm a writer. So I get to work really early. I get to work about an hour before we have to. And I stay in my car and I do any social media, any kind of authorly like tasks. If I can do a little bit of writing, I'll do that. And then once I walk into the building, I'm a teacher. I'm not, doing any writing or anything like that. The most I do is during SSR, I'll read a book, which to me is essential to being an author. But then when I get home, that is when I'm clocking in and doing words, and I don't take any grading home or anything like that. I meet with friends on the weekend to do writing sprints together, and we'll do 20 minutes of writing, 5 minutes of yapping, sometimes a little more on the yapping, and then we'll bounce back and forth. So that kind of keeps me consistently writing and putting words on the page.
You're adult Greta if she's healed. Like she would just be like, well, how to have an organized life, and it would just be like
Well, and I
everything.
will say sometimes the idea is much more successful than the execution. I had the bizarre idea that while I was on book tour, I'd be able to write. I was like, I'll be able to write on the plane. My flights were at 4 a.m. Why did I think I'd be able to just like, no, I was barely conscious. And so I will say sometimes the vision is great and sometimes it is just a vision and it doesn't actually come to fruition.
Do you think you'll still stay in the same lane of thrillers, or is there about to be like a romantasy or something?
So I have an adult cozy fantasy, but it is under a secret pen name. And so it is me. It's not ghostwriting, it's
Okay.
me, but it's secret pen name. But then my next YA is still thriller, but maybe leaning more horror. And yeah, so it's more dead bodies, sorry, but still kissing. So if you enjoyed the mix of dead bodies and kissing, have I got more for you? But I love writing all of it. That's always been my thing, is I just love telling stories. So I have some adult rom-coms that I would love to see find their way. Before I was writing thrillers, I was writing young adult romances and contemporaries. Hopefully, the moment will someday be right for those to resurface. That book I mentioned, Sunflower, was a YA contemporary, and it's still one of the best things I think I've ever written. So hopefully, one day the market wants those things. But I just love writing and I love telling stories. And yeah, telling stories with murder mysteries is amazing, and I will always do it. But I love other things too.
Yeah, it's my jam, but I'm also about exploring the cast. Like, I'm the type that I'll follow the author around.
Oh, I love that. You're the best.
Thank you. When you consume books, are you a Kindle, a physical, or like an audiobook?
All three going at one time, and not of the same book, but I will, I have my Libby holds. Usually I do Libby for audiobooks, and I love Libby for audiobooks. And so I'll be listening, especially when I haven't done any in the summer, but now that I'm back at the day job, I'll do those on my way back and from work. And then I have a physical book. Usually I'm reading in the classroom during SSR time. And then I have a Kindle. And so that's usually stays at home, but sometimes if the book is good enough, it makes it to school. So,
Oh. Um, and special editions are very much in. Um, Once Difficult Girls has its inevitable special edition, what would the frayed edges
ooh,
look like?
I love that you're helping me manifest this. I feel like the easy answer would be something red and bloody. Um, I think probably like a dark red, but I would actually love to see like a Ferris wheel or something from like the theme park, and then maybe like blood splatters, and would love if the inside cover had something similar. I think that could be really haunting and cool.
Would it be too dark if it was the gondolas as
No,
the
I love that idea. No, you just said you that's I would love a gondola and then like blood dripping down. That exact scene, that's what I want on the sprayed edge. So,
like it's so dark, but they never took it down. So
which honestly, if you've worked at a theme park, I had someone be like, "Would they really not?" And I was like, "You are underestimating how cheap theme parks can be." Also, if it was bringing people in, yeah, they would let that stand. I'm sad to say.
it was so like it was genuinely so awesome to talk to you.
Oh, thank you
And
so much. It
you're
was so great to talk
welcome.
to you. I love talking to people who really connect to and like understand the book and have those references to make. I'm still kind of in that debut author. Wait, you actually read it? Like you really read it? That's, my brain is still in disbelief. So I'm very, very grateful and honored. So thank you.
No problem. And I can't wait to talk to you about your next books and all of that. So yes, definitely keep in touch.
Yes, I will. Thank
Okay,
you.
no problem. Thank you. Okay, bye.
Bye.